Hey everybody, welcome back to another fantastic episode of Ready to Die Fighting. I'm Chris, and it is about 1:30, almost 2 o'clock in the morning, and I can't sleep. I have insomnia. It's pretty uncommon. It's pretty common for me not to be able to sleep. Usually I can just lay there and rest, but tonight I really feel like I need to get up. And so I'm cleaning the gym, and I figure I'd talk to you guys. And something that I was thinking about is just some of my observations as we age. I am old, getting old. I'm a fat old lady. And getting old doesn't really scare me. Um, getting old, the alternative is dying. You either get old or you die. So I'd rather get old to a certain extent. Um, but there were some things that I took care of my grandma and my mom. She got sick. My grandma was sick. And watching them, taking care of them, things like that. There's some things that I noticed changed in them as their illnesses progressed. And so from observing that, and eventually my grandma had to go to a facility for sick old ladies, and um, watching the people there, I visited her a lot while she was there. Uh, there's definitely some things that I noticed, and I kind of developed these, I guess, health checks or youth checks that I just kind of spontaneously do, and just to see, where I'm at. And so I thought I'd share those with you. I'm not a doctor, no medical person told me this. These are purely my observations. Your miles may vary, but it's just something that I do. And I notice that I just kind of do them randomly throughout the day at various times pretty regularly. And so it's, just going to share them with you. The first thing that I notice is that, especially in my grandma, she aged. Um, it was a very slow process, but some of these things were kind of like hints at the beginning of the end. Um, and actually, I was talking to my friend about this when she talked about how when you slow down, once you start to slow down, that's a bad sign. Um, Walking slower, moving slower. And that's something I definitely noticed in my grandma. She was moving really slow. Everything was taking her such a long time. Taking a shower, washing her hair, getting ready to eat breakfast, eating her food, everything just slowed way down. Um, and she'd get frustrated. We were always rushing her. So that's one thing that I noticed. Um, and that one is kind of hard for me to gauge because I've always been a slow walker. So if anything, I'm actually walking faster now than I used to. But even as a teenager, my mom would make fun of me. It's like I walked like an old lady apparently. Um, but the thing that I test myself on a lot is I noticed my grandma's balance. That was like one of the first things that started to go. And so one of the things that I do to kind of check my balance um, is I just stand on one foot. And it's a really simple thing to do. And I noticed it today. I was in Lowe's and I was standing in line, and I was actually holding a few planks of wood. They were 1x6s, I think 8 feet long. And I was just, I was holding them on my shoulder like this and a box of screws. And I had it just kind of balanced on there, just holding it like that, waiting in line. And I started standing on one foot. And it wasn't something that I wasn't trying to show off or anything, but it's just something that I notice I regularly do, especially if I'm standing in line. Maybe it's sometimes like that, or this way. For some reason, I like to kind of hook my foot, like kind of behind me. I guess kind of like a crane or something. I'm not really sure. But that's something I do on a regular basis. Just anytime I'm kind of standing around or waiting, it might even be like that or whatever. I kind of like doing this because it's a bit of a stretch as well. And the important thing with this, at least that I think is an important thing, is not only can you stand on one foot, but what's happening to your hips when you're standing on one foot. That's why I tucked my shirt in. I wanted to make sure you guys could see. If my big belly isn't hiding my hips. So if your hips are like this, when you stand on one foot, your weight is going to have to shift naturally. You can't just stay like this and try to, you're not centered. So your weight is going to have to shift so that you're over the one leg. But your hips should still stay pretty level. If you notice that your hip kind of drops down like that, I don't know how well you see. So like the hip can either drop down and then this one's kind of going up. I don't know how well you can see it realistically, but it's a small movement. So like right here feels about level to me, and then dropping it. And so if you end up dropping your hips as you stand on one foot, then that means your hip is weak. And I don't know how much that affects lifespan or quality of life or balance or anything like that, but it's something that I noticed. Granny really struggled with her balance. I don't think she even could stand on one foot at all. And yeah, just the legs and all that started getting really weak. And so that's just a test that I do just all the time. Like sometimes I'm not even thinking about it. Just stand on one foot, put my hands on my hips, and just see if it's dipping. That was a song. The other thing is I noticed my grandma, she could no longer stand on her toes. I don't know if it was a matter of, there is an element of balance here as well, so it could have been that, but it really seemed like she lost the strength in her leg muscles and also maybe even the flexibility and mobility in her toes and ankles to be able to do it. Just her foot kind of just became this, almost like it was in a cast. Like this was, look how dirty my feet are. Like this was kind of like just like one big solid thing that didn't really move, and she ended up kind of shuffling. So I like to just check and stand on my toes and just do these toe raises. And, sometimes I'll stand on like the blades of my feet and different ways and just testing to see if that mobility is still there. Dog is just looking at me like I'm crazy. and so that's just another one of my little tests that I do. Another one is, and this one's kind of a funny one because I actually wasn't able to do it when I was younger. I think maybe I could when I was a little kid, and then somewhere in like early adulthood, late teenage years, I wasn't able to do it. And then I trained myself so that I could do it again. And so now I have to be very careful to make sure I don't lose it. But it's just squatting down. So being able to squat and leave my feet flat like this. And if I can walk like that, even better. So I feel like as long as I can do this, going down and getting back up, my knees do creak a little bit when I do it. I feel like there's a lot of flexibility, there's some balance, there's obviously some leg strength, things like that. And so to me, this is a really good sign. If I can do this and move around and kind of shift my weight and things like that without any problem, then I feel like I'm doing pretty good. I've got quite a bit of mobility still. And the last one is just being able to get up off the floor. I did a whole video on this, on the importance of and different drills and exercises and stuff on the floor. So if I can get up off the ground, get onto the ground, move around on the ground, I feel like I'm in a good place and I'm not old yet. Not saying that if you can't do those things, you're old. It just means that's my kind of gauge of where I'm at. And if at any point I find that I can't do these things, I think I'm going to be pretty worried. And so I'm not saying you have to use these same benchmarks or whatever, but this is just what I noticed, especially with the on the ground thing. I noticed, like, as my grandma got older, she was losing her balance, and at first she would fall, and she was able to get up herself. And then she was able to get up with assistance. And I remember the last time she fell, at home anyways, she couldn't get up at all. And even with me helping her, it was really, really difficult getting her off the floor. She just didn't have the coordination, the balance, the strength, just all of that stuff was gone. And so it was really hard for me by myself, even though she wasn't like this huge woman. When she was younger, she carried quite a bit of weight on her. But as she aged, she lost weight. And she was actually pretty small, but it was just, I didn't have the training, like I'm not a nurse or anything. Like I don't know how to pick someone up in a very gentle way who's frail and sick and things like that. And so I'm like trying to pull on her and trying to get her to like, help yourself get up. And it was difficult. And so, I mean, I eventually got her up, but it took way longer than I felt like it should have. I thought that'd be like a quick and easy thing to do. So these are just my benchmarks. And when I get to the point where I can't stand on one foot, I can't go on my toes, I can't squat down, I can't get back up, I'm going to be really worried about my health and my mobility and my ability to do anything, including live much longer. It's a little morbid and sad, but it's something to think about. We're all getting older, right? So my advice, I guess, would be to come up with your own, because maybe you've got bad knees and you could never squat down like that. That doesn't mean that you're about to die. If I couldn't do it right now, that doesn't mean that I'm about to die. But maybe there's something else that can be your benchmark of, as long as I can do this thing, I'm still in good shape or good enough shape. And I think that's a really good thing to have. My stepdad, he said he touches his toes. He said, as long as I can touch my toes, then I'm doing good. That one, I don't know if I can touch my toes or not, to be honest. I haven't tried in a really long time. That's not something that I worry about, I guess. But maybe that's a good one for you. Like and subscribe. Thanks for staying up late with me. I got to finish cleaning up this gym and maybe some other things because I'm still not sleepy. If this video is helpful to you, leave me a comment, like, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. So I keep making videos and ideally make videos that you like and that you find helpful. And the best way for me to know if you find them helpful or not is to leave a comment, hit that like button, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And I'll catch you guys in the next video.